There would be a conviction, but there is still no actual closure. Hello, true crimeers. This is the case of Katie Worsky. Viewer discretion is advised. Catherine Sybil Worsky was born on April 9th, 1970, and she lived her entire life, which unfortunately is not very long, in Virginia. On July 11th, 1982, 12-year-old Katie would beg her parents to please let her sleep over at her friend Tammy's house. Katie and Tammy had been lifelong friends, the families knew each other, and Tammy's house wasn't that far away. So Katie's parents would cave in and let her do a sleepover. Katie was diabetic, and so she was required to take insulin, so her parents made absolutely sure that she had it with her, along with all of her other belongings, and she went to her friend's house. Her dad would drop her off, but he didn't realize that when he did so, it would be the last time he ever saw her again. By 5:30 the following morning, Tammy woke up and realized that Katie was not in her room anymore. So Tammy and her parents would search the house. Then they called Katie's parents and said, hey, she's not here. Did she go home? They said no. And so they searched their house. She wasn't there either. Katie's missing. How did this happen? So they report her missing to police. Most importantly, Katie's insulin was still at Tammy's home. She didn't have it with her. And so this is dire because she needs it or this could be fatal. Police believed pretty much from the get-go that Katie had been abducted from this house, Tammy's house, sometime between midnight and 5:30 in the morning. They did have a suspect almost right away. A 24-year-old man named Glenn Barker. He, I guess, at one point had dated Tammy's mom. However, he and Tammy's mom they weren't together by the time Katie disappeared. But according to Carrie, Tammy's mom, he was at the house that night. He tried to come in, but, Carrie was like, no. However, I guess he was still allowed to stay at the house because he was, admittedly, he said this, hanging out with the girls, as well as Tammy's little brother, Eddie. He admitted to giving alcohol to the 12-year-old Katie and 13-year-old Tammy. And then he says he left the house at 12:30 a.m. And then he says he did not take Katie, and the last time he saw her was also at the house. A year prior to this, he had actually been accused of kidnapping another girl, and as a matter of fact, I think he was even charged with that, but was still awaiting a trial or something. But they were able to get a warrant and search his apartment, and they found some stuff. They found clothing with blood on it, towels with blood on it, and these had been shoved underneath his mattress. They also found some inside of a cooler. The blood on those items was tested, and it was the same blood type as Katie's. This is in 1982, so obviously they didn't have the DNA technology yet, but they could do blood typing. Then they found a pair of little girls' underwear in his apartment. They also had blood on them. They brought in dogs to see if they can pick up a scent anywhere, and that scent would lead them straight to Glenn's vehicle. It was an item of clothing that Katie wore, so it was Katie's scent. In his car, they found hair that was microscopically similar to Katie's. So Glenn Barker was arrested and charged with her murder, despite still, at that point, not having her body. And even to this very day, they have not found her. He has not said where she is, because he denies having anything to do with whatever happened to her. But it's more than obvious that Katie was deceased at this point. Once again, he admitted at trial to hanging out with Katie and Tammy that night. He admitted to giving these two young children alcohol. And he says he could not remember if he harmed the girl. Glenn Barker is also a suspect in several other murders, including the murder of a mother and her daughter. I have their names on my list and I can cover their cases individually. So they believe that Glenn Barker basically put alcohol into these two young girls with the purpose and intent of sexually assaulting at least Katie. Now, I am assuming that Tammy was asleep when Katie was taken. I don't know where Tammy's mom was during all of this, but by his own admission, he was there with her. He was the last person technically to see Katie alive, other than Tammy. All that evidence at his home. They also found drops of blood in the living room of the house where Katie was taken from, indicating that she may have stumbled and fallen and hurt herself because she was intoxicated while he was trying to do something to her. Then he kidnapped her, took her out of the house, and did God knows what with her. He was found guilty of second-degree murder, and he only got 18 years in prison, and he only served 9. In 2014, he died at the age of 55, never being held accountable for any other murders he may have committed, and never sharing with anyone what he did to Katie and where he put her. To this day, she has never been located, and there is now a very strong chance that she will never be found. A man served just 9 years for killing her. Is that justice? No. No, it is not.